I want to start this episode with a story about a very important issue in society today. What do you order at McDonald's? We had beers with BackChat last week. It was a great event. If you were there, thanks for coming. If you weren't, sucked in. It was actually really good. We didn't have, we didn't think it was going to be the MCG, but I was also scared not one person was going to come. So we're somewhere in the middle, somewhere between Grand Final day at the MCG and zero. That's where we were, somewhere in the middle there.
And solitary confinement at a high security prison.
That's correct. But that's we're digressing here away from the story. Now, you will notice if you are listening, we are sort of a bit segmented. We're in isolation today. We're all in separate parts of Perth here today. It's actually quite fun doing it. I'm in the studio. Dan's at his house. Charlie's at his house with Freo Dockers merch behind him. And we're all over the place on YouTube. So hope you're enjoying listening. But what do you enjoy ordering from Macca's? Now, look, I'm a pretty stock standard guy. I like my Big Mac meal or even a quarter pounder, large
Same.
meal. Nothing. Shut up. Shut your mouth when you speak to me. Don't you dare sit there having a glass of wine saying same. What do you tell the people at BackChat what you order, you sick individual?
I like to mix it up. I'll say that much, okay?
All right.
I like my stock standards, okay? Well, go on, tell them what you want to tell them, and let me.
I just want to set the scene. I want to set the scene, and then you can say what your order is. So okay. we go to McDonald's after beers with BackChat. We pull in. You're going to go through the drive-through. I had a responsible amount of beers, and I was able to drive. I've got a breath tester in my car, so we're good. Yep. I pull into the drive-through. It's 11 p.m. at night. There's 100,000 people. If we're talking about the MCG, there was literally, I reckon, 100 kids with all of their parents. Anyway, we ended up inside McDonald's. The drive-through was too hectic. We thought, we're going to go inside. I walk up behind you. I say, I'll get a quarter pounder, large meal, 6 nuggets, barbecue sauce. Stock standard. You can't even try and challenge it.
It's a great order.
Thank you, Charlie. What did you proceed to put into that display, Dan?
I got a double cheeseburger meal, medium, and I added the filet of fish added as like a little treat because it's a bloody good burger. Okay, let me tell you about the filet of fish.
Please do, you sick man.
The good thing about the filet of fish is that not many people order them, right? So when they make them fresh. They're not just like pounding like heaps of filet of fishes out. So they're fresh. It's freshly caught, I don't know, barramundi or something, flaked into a crumbed patty. And the best part about it isn't the tartare sauce, which is great, isn't the melted cheese over the piece of fish. It's the steamed bun. Now, it's the only bun at McDonald's that you get the steamed bun. Every other bun can get a bit stale and crusty. This one is fluffy and steamed and good and soft.
Oh, yeah. I heard it was steamed. Don't worry. Charlie, can I bring you on? What's going on here? Seriously, I'm about to throw up in my mouth.
I'm disgusted. I'm confused. I don't know. I have no words for what a filet-o-fish is.
A filet-o-fish. Do you think it's seafood? Is it possible that it's not seafood?
I reckon it's fake.
No, it's fish. It's in the name, filet-o-fish. It says it there.
Welcome to BackChat. You are on BackChat podcast on YouTube. If you're listening, if you're watching, thanks for joining us. You did miss Beers with BackChat last week. We gave a bit of a pseudo review last week because we kind of recorded before we did it, but this is the first time we got to chat to you. It was unreal. We did it at the Selby Hotel. Beer Farm got behind us. So Beer Farm, exclusive beer providers of the podcast, along with Whippersnapper whiskey providers of the podcast. We're doing bloody well on the alcohol front. I will say that. It was a ripping night, wasn't it, fellas?
Very, very good. And I will just say, not to backtrack too much to talk about the filet of fish, if you do order it with a hash brown as a side and put it in the bun, it's like fish and chips in a burger. So it's very
Don't
good.
try to justify it.
One more word about a filet of fish on this podcast and you're removed. You're done.
Okay. I'm done.
It was very good. Beers with BackChat. If you've been following along, sorry if we didn't get it out to as many people as we would have liked. We did speak about it on the podcast for a fair bit and then ended up just pulling the trigger. But make sure you're following us on socials at BackChat _ across all social channels. You can email us for one of the just behind social media, a great segment of this show. You send it, we read it. hello@backchatpodcast.com.au. If you're watching us on YouTube, hello, thanks for tuning in. Over 750 subscribers on YouTube, Dan.
That's huge.
Yeah, really
Awesome
exciting
effort.
stuff.
Another solid effort by Doug at Beers with BackChat. Hung out afterwards. We had beers with Doug. Shouts to you, Doug, for hanging around.
Doug was good. So we had we had a few people there, and Doug hung around. It was great chatting. We're going to do it again. I think we're going to do it again, right? It was a good enough event to do again. We'll go again.
Definitely.
Patreon's going nicely. I did want to just throw a little special thank you to our patrons. We've gone to 150 subscribers to this podcast. Never, ever in my wildest dreams did I think we'd actually get there. Like, hopefully it keeps growing and we go even bigger. But if you had asked me this when we started that up, asking people to help us and support us and add a bit of value to this podcast, never did I think we'd get there. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you very, very, very much. You got something to add, Dan?
Massive. No, it's just huge. I'm dumbfounded. Can't believe it. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So at Beers with BackChat, as promised, we did the Premiership sweep, where anyone who was there went into a bit of it was very high-tech stuff. We had 2 champagne holders with ripped up pieces of paper inside. So we went all out.
Yep.
And basically we drew a name and we drew a team. And that's who you got. And we at BackChat are putting $15. That's what I said, wasn't it? $15.
Sure. Yeah, 15. Yeah.
$15 on the nose on every team this year to win the premiership. And if you came to Beers with BackChat, you got free money. Someone walked away with free money. Don't know who it was.
Yep.
Someone did.
Yep. And if you pulled a roughie out of the hat, maybe like give me like a Geelongy Hawthorn sort of outside.
They are not in the same basket. Let's throw an Essendon, maybe a St Kilda, maybe a Fremantle. Oh, hello, Dan. Dan, you left us. Are you back? Hello, Dan.
And I'm back. I was just saying, if you pull a roughie, you might be winning more than just Melbourne odds type money.
Yeah, I mean, betting becomes a big part of different things around the place, and we're not going to become a betting podcast, but I think having a bit of fun with it is a good way to do it. Like, we know that betting exists. We're not going to go and throw our life savings behind it, but having a bit of something to follow along. And I will do another 3. Yeah, I'll do another 3 teams today. That'll be, who am I doing this week, Charlie? We've lost alphabetical order. We've had to throw some stuff around. We're doing Richmond. Who else?
This week we got Richmond, Port, and the Bulldogs.
The Bullies.
Okay. There's some. Okay, well, I can do all of those. There's some easier sells there, leaving without. Now, you might have seen this if you're following us on social. I got a bit excited about this. I didn't know the full extent, and it's my naivety and mistake per se. But Indy, who is doing great things with our social media, I do know her story. We'd love to be able to chat to her on the podcast, but there's a few things stopping that at the moment. But we will get to her now. Indy. She's our cyclist. She is our resident cyclist. She runs our social media, does a lot of great things there. She's found herself in a program where she basically helped out a mate doing a uni project, jumped on a watt bike and blew it up, blew the thing to pieces. No one had seen readings on it like it ever before. And so within about 2 months, she found herself in an Olympic program with Cycling Australia, where they're trying to fill effectively a gender gap in female cyclists, racing for the 2024 Olympics. She's in a program now here in WA. In her spare time, she helps out with the podcast, but that's what she's doing. And she won the state championships, as we announced on this podcast. She did win it about 4 weeks ago. She's heading to nationals, but she needs funding. She doesn't have any funding down. I find it outrageous that she's in a program and she's trying to fund herself. But I think that a lot of Olympians find themselves in that way because it's not meant to be a professional, thing. But she's training like any AFL player would, like any AFLW player would, like any cricketer, any professional athlete. She's putting in those hours, but she's funding it herself. So she kind of put a bit of a personal call out. I thought the BackChat community, we got behind her a little bit, Dan. We're going to get her to nationals.
We are. And it's a pretty good story. So when we can follow it, we will. But we should get behind it for sure, because there's more medals to be won. That's for sure.
Yes. Are we speaking in cliches now? There's more medals to be won. What the fuck does that mean?
Well, it's just the truth.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, thank you for your input. I
Cliches
appreciate
can be
it.
true and they can be used.
Okay, that is not exactly what we use on this podcast, but okay. So yeah, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea. Maybe BackChat could sponsor Indy. Maybe BackChat could be Indy's premium sponsors, and BackChat could ride a cyclist from the ashes of a watt bike experiment in a university to winning medals in the 2024 Olympics. I think that's kind of exciting.
It is very exciting. I could get my Lycra pants on. We could do all sorts of things.
Oh, jeez. I knew you were distracted by something. You were just thinking about what sort of outfit you'd have to wear if we were going to support a cyclist on this podcast.
I don't have the top, though, so if we could get that sorted as well.
Okay, very good. Now, fantasy. This is an exciting little period for the BackChat community here.
It's so close to getting started.
Thursday is when this podcast is out.
So tonight.
Yes, tonight. Yes, but the following Thursday, so the following episode will be out after round one starts. So Western Bulldogs Melbourne play on a Wednesday night next week. And so this is the very last podcast you'll hear us banging on about entering the fantasy league.
Mm-hmm.
You got to enter to win the 2 grand final tickets.
Is that still the prize? That's an outrageous prize. I can't believe that that's the prize. Is that happening?
So it's happening. 2 grand final tickets for the BackChat Fantasy League winner with almost 100 teams in it now. So it's not stupid numbers. It's still a 1 in 100 chance of winning this great prize. But I think more importantly, look, winning's not everything. It's a lot of things. And I've lived my life by winning and trying to win. But it's not everything. What I think this will do, it will be terrific banter throughout the season to see how we're all doing in fantasy land. Because in the end, it actually doesn't matter if you're an expert or if you're a beginner. You can do well if you're a beginner and you can do poorly as an expert. So I think it's a uniter of people, fantasy, and it's going to be fun this year, Dan.
I hope that we can talk about fantasy, but not sort of focus on my efforts because I fear that they won't be very good.
Have confidence. And you know why you need some confidence? I've been promising it for a little time now.
Yep.
And I've done it. We have Selby Listier, who runs Moira's Magic. He's joining us. Well, he's joining us now, Dan.
Is he the guy who's won it twice?
Selby Listier has won it twice. He's won 2 cars, 2016, 2017 or 2017, 2018. He knows what he's doing. He's been there. He's done that. And you know what? He's going to teach us, the BackChat community, how to win at fantasy. You ready?
I'm ready.
Now, as promised on this podcast, Selby Listier, 2-time winner of the fantasy competition here in Australia. Yes, 2-time, has joined us. G'day, Selby. How are you, mate?
G'day, Will, Dan. Big fans of you guys. So good to be on.
Thanks,
well,
Selby.
we're big fans of yours, mate. Moira's Magic, you've been doing some good stuff for a few years now. You've raised a fair bit of money for charity. You're now taking not only that on the charitable stuff, but you got AFLW. You've got the full resource guide in Moira's Magic, your own app, you got a website. You are the fantasy resource in Australia. How do our listeners build a team? Tell us all we need to know.
Well, you can start by getting the guide, mirrorsmagic.com.au. But no, it's exciting and it feels like fantasy sports because for a long time, and you're a big lover of it, like myself, and in the States, and fantasy footy over there, and I've spent some time there. It's such a cool thing to do, play fantasy sports, whereas it's been a bit frowned upon for years in Australia. But yourself, Xavier Ellis, Harry Edwards with his good performance of the weekend. I think the Trader boys are interviewing Patrick Cripps and doing a draft with Patrick Cripps, Tommy Mitchell and Lockie Neal today. So it's starting to get a bit of buzz, which is good because it's a good, fun game which we play, which heightens our interest in the games on the weekend. And looking forward to getting stuck in this year because I think it looks as if it's going to be a different year and a trickier year now than ever with everything going on with COVID and not many kids coming through.
I mean, not only are you running moirasmagic.com.au, which is the full fantasy resource guide, I want to get to that in a little bit, but to add some context behind what you've got to say, you have won this competition twice. How much work goes into winning the comp, Selby?
Yeah, a bit too much work, but it's 2017 when I won it the first year. I actually didn't put as much time as I do now. I kind of landed upon, because I'm a lover of footy. I watch a lot of footy, played a bit of footy. So just like everyone else, I picked my team before round one and it performed pretty strongly. But then on the back of then because I won by a record amount of points that year. And from there, I've studied the moves I made and what made those good picks, which I made that year, good. And from there, trying to identify similar kind of players, which I did in 2018, which, a lot more work was put in to back it up the season after. And then I came out and tied for first again the year after, which put a bit of, it made it show that it works, that system works. And from there, I've been sharing the resource through Moreira's Magic, where we provide tips, advice, some tools, some calculators, some podcasts with Xavier Ellis, as mentioned, and been doing that for about 4 years now. And so, a lot of time gets put into it, but I also love it. I love watching footy anyway, so it's no real difference for me.
How close were you to winning before that first time? Like, were you getting like top 10 or anything like that before, or was it you just storm right to the top?
Yeah, I was always, because 130,000 people play, or that first year when I won, it was 150,000 people play. So I was always around the 2,000 mark. I'd always be competitive amongst my mates, but always thought you must have needed some cheat code or don't know what these guys at the top were doing. But I was always loved it and played it since I was a kid, but it was never a standout. So it gives hope to all, hopefully.
Okay, so you've been the best. But look, I mean, if someone in the BackChat Fantasy League wins the whole competition, I'll be surprised. Bloody well done to you. But as you know, Selby, we're giving away 2 grand final tickets this year to the winner of the BackChat Fantasy League. So I thought it might be relevant for our listeners just to hear some basic stuff. I mean, I say listeners, I mean Dan. Dan needs to know how to build his team. What are some real basics in, we got about a week and a half, about a week to go now. What are some of the basics you need to do to build a good fantasy team?
Yeah, so just back one step, simple fantasy for those who don't know, you're essentially picking a squad of 30 real-life players and you get points based off their performances on the weekend. If more kicks, more handballs, the better. But you've got to remain within a cap, so you can't just go out and spend all your money on these Tom Mitchell, Clayton Oliver's, all the best players. You've got to mix it with players who you think are going to improve. So in terms of a tip, you want to look at people who you think are going to break out this year and outperform what they've done last year, because they're priced based off what they did in the prior year. So someone like a Patrick Cripps, who's been down for a couple of years now we had that bad back last year, and that I think those shortened quarters didn't help him in 2020, whereas now on base of the pre-seed, looks like he's back to his best. So he's one who should easily outperform what he's priced at and should do well. Like a Matt Crouch, who missed all of last year, and James Sicily as well with injury. It's always a bit of a risk picking players on the back of injury, but they also come at a 30% discount because they missed the full last year. So they're 2 players who you can put in your side, and I think they're going to outperform that and go a long way to helping you have a good team.
Stephen Cornelio, does that excite you at all? It excites me. Come on now. He's got to be in the team.
Yeah, he excites me. So same. I think he's had a year where he averaged 111 fantasy points. The year after that, he averaged 102, but there's a game he did his knee in the first minute. So remove that 0, which he scored that day, was another 111. So he's essentially a player who can score 111 with the same role. I think he comes in this year priced in the 80s, averaging 80-odd. And looking at the weekend and just scored, he looks like he's got those quick feet, which we love, Cornelia, where he's busy around the contest, lays the tackles, pops up for marks. So, and the beauty with him, you can pick him up as a forward. So you're only allowed 6 forwards, and typically your forwards are made up of these big key forwards. But because he spent a bit of time returning from injury last year, playing in that forward role, which we were questioning Leon Cameron about last year, it's actually come back as a blessing because you can pick up one of the premier midfielders in the comp, captain of GWS, as a cheap forward option. So he's one I'm with you there, Scully.
That's what I was going to ask, because you were listing quite a few midfielders there, but obviously they get most of the ball, so their stats would be higher. So then are there key sort of backs and forwards that are good fantasy value?
Yeah, so you're right. The midfielders score the most points because it's based off possessions, marks, tackles. If you kick a goal, you get 6 points. So poor old Joshy Kennedy kicks a goal, he'll get 3 points for his kick, 6 for his goal, and gets 9 points. Whereas someone like a Tommy Mitchell in the middle goes a little couple of handballs, he gets 9 points just like that. So they don't get reward for effort, those big key forwards. So you want to aim to have your whole team, particularly the forwards and the midfielders, playing through the midfield. So with the forwards, you're looking at players who have in the past played forwards, like an Isaac Heaney, who's touted for more midfield time this year. If he gets that midfield time, he'll be able to lay some more tackles, get some more touches.
Mate, he is touted for more midfield time every single year. I reckon it's gone on for 8 years. You can't have him. I cannot have him in my team. No Isaac Heaney. No.
All right. Well, on the weekend, just score because I've been sick of his. I've been on the train and probably riding the train of Isaac Heaney. And on the weekend, just scored. He started back forward with Pavlich out, so there's a bit of a question mark on him. But like a Zachy Butters, who's been a half forward for a few years, he's touted to come in and spend a lot more time in the midfield. So you want that forward group to run through the midfield. In terms of your defenders, you don't want your Will Schofield, Dower, fist first defenders. You want someone who takes the kick-ins, like a Jake Lloyd, gets those few little cheap possessions. That's what I mentioned Sicily earlier. He's one of those, despite being a taller defender. Bit of scully about him, actually, old Sis. But he seems to get on the end of a couple too, so he's not a bad option himself.
What about some do's and don'ts of fantasy footy? What about head versus heart decisions? What should you be? You're a big West Coast fan. Should you be loading up on West Coast players, or is this a head game?
Depends if you want to win the coveted BackChat 2 tickets to the AFL Grand Final, because at the end of the day, fantasy's a game we play for a bit of escape and have a bit of fun with. So Xavier Ellis, who I do a bit of work with, he's all head. He loves a few players like a Zach Jones, Zach Bailey. There's a few players where he loves them as players. He just likes to pick them. He also finds himself on a Friday night having a few stubbies before the game kicks off. He goes, I wouldn't mind seeing this guy play while watching it. So he trades in players just so he can enjoy watching them. And I don't mind that strategy, but he's probably not going to take out the 2 tickets. In terms of your head, that's where you've just got to look at the numbers and look at what they're priced at. Think of what you think they're going to score, and if you think they're going to outperform that, more often than not, they're a good pick.
Will you have a team in the comp this year? I mean, you've put your money where your mouth is, and you've built an entire fantasy resource for the rest of us. Are you going to have a team?
No. So I played 2017, backed it up 2018, and then on the back of that, I've been giving this advice and guide. And essentially, if I wanted to give the best advice possible, which I try to do, if I was also trying to win, I'd probably hold back a little bit of that advice. That's what I have to tell everyone. More so, I'm just scared if I play and get it to come 10,000, people stop listening to me. But so I hung them up in 2019. I came back 2020, given it was short quarters. There was less rounds. There's all these different rules where I thought, well, I can play, and if I do no good, I could at least say, well, it's not a proper season. But I happened to come 33rd that year out of the 130,000. So that was enough for me to say, okay, well, I've proven my structure works. I'm going to sit back now and try to help some of our members do well, which last year we had the winner, the runner-up, and 7 of the top 10 ended up being members of ours. And we've got a pretty small, like yourself, nice, small but loyal membership group, which we love.
Yeah, I mean, that was the stat I was going to roll out. You had 7 of the top 10 last year in the competition. So if you are listening and you do want those 2 grand final tickets, I've been saying it every single week on the podcast, you need to sign up to Moira's Magic. If you want any chance of winning it, look, this is going to be about banter. As Selby points out, this is about banter. This is about me hanging shit on Dan when he picks Isaac Heaney and Heaney starts playing forward.
I'll pick him.
There you go. It's going to be all banter. But if you do want to win, I would highly suggest signing up to Moira's Magic. I'm signed up. Dan, are you signed up?
I will be. I've got to ask though, what sort of, is it just you telling people pick these sorts of people? What sort of stuff is actually in the guide?
Yeah, just before back to that 7, the top 10, one of the 3 which weren't in the top who weren't a member was old Harry Edwards. So I've got to have a chat to him next time I see him. So it also shows you don't have to be a member to succeed. Now because I'm with you, I don't like telling people, I'm just got just much guess whether Heaney's going to play midfield and play well as Scully and as the everyday football fan. a lot of what we share is philosophies, what we've done in the past, what trades we've done, what sort of players we like to pick in, and then try to identify those sorts of players. This year, a lot about the stats and breaking down what they average in the second half of last year, the last 5 games, because that could be a good key indicator for what they're going to do this year. Someone like DeGoey, who averaged 80 over the full season last year, but in his last half, he averaged 110 when he was pushed in the midfield. You can then think, okay, well, that might be a little niche for him to outperform this year. So lots of stats, but again, a bit like you guys, we're trying to keep it fun. So that's where Zave comes in, where I think he ranked 20,000th last year, but it was in between my fancy advice. He'd throw in a few nice stories about Al Clarkson and his broken feet, which I've heard him say on your podcast a couple of times as well.
So I was going to say, I think the best piece of resource I found last year. So last year was my first top 1,000 year. Thank you. Which was,
which is, if you're playing fantasy, it's a huge thing. The top 1,000, your top 1%, 130,000 people play.
We're talking. Yeah, we're talking. It's like the 2-minute barrier in the 800. I'm thinking it's like the 2-minute barrier in the 800. Dan, like I spoke about with Peter Bowl. Once you crack that 2-minute mark, I reckon it's just going to. I could be in top 10 this year. I actually think that's a possibility. But the best resource I had from Moreira is if you're sort of listening, and you think, it's a bit too much. It sounds too analytical. There's an email that comes out every week, and it pretty much breaks down what you should and shouldn't do. Who are the guys that are hot, who's not, who's fallen, who's rising. And someone like you, Dan, I think that you could get right around that. Yep. Does that sound nice?
Yeah, it does. I need to make it. It needs to be easy because I'm not going to be able to watch every game.
How many games of the weekend do you watch, Selbs? Do you watch every game?
No, I don't watch every. I probably should, but when I was winning, I wasn't watching every game either, and it was almost it saved me. Like I'd watch footy when I was doing well, and I was walking around the house stressed, pulling my hair out, whereas I was playing footy on the Saturday. By the end, where it was getting to the pointy end, I'd go to the pub on the Saturday night just to avoid having to watch and go through that stress. But now I certainly watch a lot more now that I'm not playing footy myself and not playing fantasy to try to pick up a few little cues. But I think you're the same. I feel like I could watch snippets of each game. You get a good feel, even just a couple of contests from certain players who are on the watch list and know whether they've got it in them, that killer instinct to either late jump on top and get that extra stat as a tackle or pop up for a few little kicks, or if they're just sort of happy floating along like we saw from Tommy Phillips last year.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. I just want to give you some of our best and brightest team names from the BackChat Fantasy League. How important is a team name? Is it important? So
yeah, well, it's important. Unfortunately, I've landed on this Moreira's Magic, which is you can't pronounce, or I can't pronounce, spell, remember, type when you're trying to look for the website. But I used to be called Moreiras magic.com.au, and it's named after the Brazilian jockey Joey Moreira. They call him the Magic Man. And back when I mentioned that fantasy wasn't that cool, I had a team called, I think it was called Selby Slammers, because our whole team name in our group chat there's a Murphs Maulers, Chills Chargers, all alliteration. So I thought, okay, Selby Slammers. Then Liam Anthony, who was from my hometown, his Kangaroo teammates were putting in a team with this back in the day with Hamish McIntosh, Aaron, all these cool players. I can't go in there with Selby Slammers. So I picked Moreira's Magic because it kind of fit with the alliteration of my one league, and then looked cool enough to be with these Kangaroo boys. But it happened to win that year, so they're all thinking, geez, who's this Liam's mate's come in and won the whole comp, and now I'm stuck with the name. But
that is gold. There would have been a couple of AFL boys go, just get some pleb to jump in the league. We'll take his money, no worries. Wins the league. All right, here we go. Here are our best from BackChat Fantasy. In Meek We Trust.
Yep.
Very good, Lloyd. Boracic Park. Like it a lot. I Yo What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
Dom, Kick, and Harry.
Yeah.
What is this? Oh, Seymour's Sue Squad. And that's how you spell Sue, right? Siiiiiiiiuu. And Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Who have you got, Dan? What's your name again?
Be My Ballantyne, which was my fantasy name like 15 years ago.
Did
Did you tell
Selby
Hayden
slamming?
the other day?
I probably should have, but I think I'll have to try to remember to tell him.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. All right, Selbs, thank you very much.
One more
how
on
do
you,
people-
just because it's questionable. Sean Darcy, I've seen you come out saying he's going to be the highest scoring ruckman this year. Looked like he needed the run on the weekend, scored 50. You still confident? Because I was with you. I was bullish.
Look, had I had a few beers when I did that draft? Yes. Should I have taken Sean Darcy in the first round? No. Am I going to stick to my guns and argue to my death? Yes. So Sean Darcy will be the highest ranking ruckman in the league this year. I had a chat to him personally in the first practice match. I was in the stands calling the game and I saw Sean walking around. This was when Nat Fife had his goatee, actually. So I spoke to Nat. Nat told me he was taking the goatee off, which he did the next day, which is a huge disappointment for footy fans and people fans around the world, if I'm honest. And then I spoke to Sean Darcy. He's got a little thumb guard on, which I wasn't. I said, what's going on down here, Sean? So I'm not sure if his thumb's 100%, but I'm backing him in. Sean Darcy. Will he be in my fantasy team this year? That was in a draft league. I don't know. At the moment, I've got Bruce is floating through there. I've got Grundy. I think he's going to have a good year. I'm having a look at little alliterations in the middle. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with my rucks, but Sean Darcy will be very good. Now, to finish off, if you do want to sign up and you want to win the 2 grand final tickets on BackChat Fantasy, you need to be a patron of this podcast. So you can do that by jumping on any of our links in the socials, BackChat __ across any socials, or you can jump on the website, backchatpodcast.com.au.
We've got Charlie
else,
going
Katya?
through the list to make sure everyone who is in the league is a patron. If you're not, you'll just get the boot.
You're getting cold. You're getting cold. So, and I, as I've confirmed today, Selby will not be competing in the BackChat Fantasy League, so there's still a chance for everybody else.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Selby.
Good on you for doing that, Dan. Chat soon.
Sign up to Moreira's Magic. If you don't want to win, probably don't sign up. But if you do want to win, I'd sign up. Let's do it. And as Dan would say, there's plenty more medals to be won. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Selby Lestier. Just some nice little insight there. I knew he'd be good. Didn't think he'd be that good, but he was very good, Selby.
I'm just gonna say after that, I'd be worried if I was you because I think I'm gonna win this.
I think you need to change your fantasy name after we went through those best fantasy names. I think you're gonna have to put some work into your team, but more importantly, your team name. I think it's got some improvement, to be honest.
I don't think it does because it's very relevant for our guest that's on the podcast today.
Okay, yes, it is Hayden Ballantyne. You know he's coming up. It's no secret, no big secret, and we're all over Perth at the moment. He's down at Rockingham at his horse farm, Ballantyne Racing. So we'll have a chat to him in a little bit. But before we get there, Dan, don't know if you've forgotten about this. Some of the best material you've ever seen on this podcast. I've been telling our listeners why their team can win the grand final this year. This is part 5 of a 6-part series, Dan.
That's a big effort. It's been fun. I've been loving. Can I just give you a quick wrap of my favorite team so far?
Yes.
So
please.
I'm all in on Carlton. You've really got me there. You really sold me on that. Fremantle, loved that one. Charlie, you will like that. There was one more that I was like, I don't think that's a very good team, but then you sold me on it. Maybe it was I can't recall. Maybe it was Essendon that I was like, you know what? They're due.
Essendon.
Speaking of that, actually, I've got to bring this up. I know you hate this. I did share that Essendon video on Reddit, and they didn't love it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try bring some joy to your fans, okay? To Essendon fans. They haven't won finals in thousands of days. Let's just give them a bit of hope. And the response that we got on that was like, yeah, nice one. That doesn't mean anything. They're due. Like, all right, guys, we're trying to help you out here. Go on back in your caves. Anyways, let's start with the next one for the part 5 of this series.
You know what I think about Reddit, so that about sums it up. They've got
Yes.
absolutely no idea what's going on over there. And yeah, I mean, what do you want me to do? I mean, to tell you exactly what's going to happen to Essendon? I've been trying to keep it positive over here, Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, Port Adelaide. Let me tell you why Port Adelaide can win the 2022 Grand Final and Premiership. They have been the best side in the competition for the last 2 years. If you line them up in a ladder with wins and losses in the home and away season for the last 2 years, put them in a big bunch, they're at the top of the ladder. They're 3 games clear of any other team, in front of Melbourne, in front of Bulldogs, Geelong. They trump them. You know what's causing them some issues, Dan?
Tell me.
September. Just like Brisbane, September seems to be a little bit of an issue. And you know what? That's a big, big issue when we're talking about winning games and winning finals. But that's okay. They've got the best team in the league. That's fine. Ollie Wines, Brownlow medalist. Great backline. We love a great backline. Jonas, Cleary, McKenzie. Oh, hasn't he turned the Cannon McKenzie has turned his life around out at Port Adelaide. He's gone from smacking goals from outside 70 to locking down blokes in the goal scorer. It's bloody beautiful to watch. Dan Houston, Burn Jones, he's an All-Australian. Aliir, my God, their backline is the best in the comp. I said it about Fremantle. I'm saying it about Port Adelaide.
What?
They
Better than
have
Freo's?
the best backline in the comp.
Wow.
Go Port. Adelaide Oval to be teal in 2022.
They will never tear us apart. No.
Hey, you should have come in with that. What do you tell me what that does to you, that song?
I like the song, but I just don't think it's No, it's better than the West Coast stuff. The the what was it called? Where they all stand up and link together. Anyways, we're staying positive on BackChat. We're staying positive.
Richmond, this is how they win the 2022 Grand Final. Quite simply, it's Dusty Martin. It's got to be his show. There's no more important player in the competition to a team than Dustin Martin. Dustin Martin doesn't play well. Richmond starts to fall to pieces a bit. Now, that's not discrediting them at all. And you know what? They look like they lost their passion to win a little bit last year, but who could blame them? They've won 3 grand finals in the last 5 years.
It's a bit boring winning after a while.
Sometimes you just got to say, you know what, someone else have a go. Just like they very nicely did in 2018 to West Coast. They said, you know what, we don't want to take it all. You boys have a go. And they just stepped aside in the prelim final against Collingwood and they gave us a go. Thank you, Richmond.
And that's thank you, Mason Cox.
Oh, God, take those sunnies off, Mason. Now, that's why I think Richmond can win the grand final, because clearly they love winning, but clearly they're good blokes. They're happy to share it around. But you know what? They want it back now. September, get them to finals. Look out.
There you go.
Western Bulldogs, baby. Western Bulldogs. Geez, I love the Western Bulldogs. I was there that day at the grand final in 2021. There were a couple of goals up in the third quarter. And I remember sitting back with, just casting my eyes off to the horizon thinking, I can't believe Western Bulldogs have done it. They've been at a hub for 12 weeks. They've been across the country. They've been living away from their families. They've come up against a superior Melbourne side, and they've bloody done it. Well,
you jinxed
about 17 minutes later, we saw 17 minutes of the greatest football you'll ever see by any team in the history of the game. The Melbourne Demons just went whack in the middle of the CBD, and well, see you later, Western Bulldogs. But you got to remember, they were right there in the grand final, and their team's no different this year. They were, 17 minutes away from winning the grand final last year. They can do it again this year. They get Josh Bruce back. Aaron Norton, he'll be right there. Aaron Norton, okay, I talk a lot about the best in the business at the moment. Aaron Norton will be the best forward in the comp, even better than Ben Brown.
Oof, that's a big call. Are you sure you want to make that? And
It's been called.
It's
been called. Oh, they have the Bont.
You haven't talked about the Bont enough. I love watching the Bont.
The Bont, McRae, Dunkley, Liberatore, Treloar, Hunter. Their midfield has more names in it than... What has a lot of names in it?
A hat.
You've heard it here first. Western Bulldogs have more names than a hat. Thank you very much. Western Bulldogs, flag in 2022. Go Doggies.
I love that. So we've got 3 more teams left.
We do. We have West Coast. We have
Yep.
Sydney. And we have...
St Kilda.
St Kilda.
Thank you, Charlie. Very good, Charlie. You're on the money today. The odds for those teams, if you were wondering, Port Adelaide are paying $10, which I think is a very good bet, Dan.
Not bad, actually.
I had to lay my predictions for the season. And although I'm telling you every team can win, Port Adelaide is right up there in my predictions. Richmond just behind them at $11. I think, look, they're a chance, but it's being probably a little too kind at this stage. And the Western Bulldogs, $6.50, I think a second favourite, as they should be. Very good team, Western Bulldogs.
Do you think, quick question,
Yeah.
home and away season plays out like it should, where every home team plays the home team, every home team plays their home games, et cetera, no hubs. Do you think if hubs come into it, will your predictions change? Does that mean anything?
West Coast and Fremantle are going to be in big trouble this year. Like, no one's really speaking about it. I'm not sure why. The Western Australian teams are going to get absolutely decimated by COVID. They're living in a COVID community where no one else really is. Everyone's moving on pretty quickly now around Australia. And then the travel requirements and the different mandates that Perth and Western Australia will be the only state living under. They will not be able to train and play here like every other team can do interstate. And you know what else has changed this year? When it was the other way around, when Western Australia was clean, clear, COVID-free, no mandates, do what you like, and the other teams were sort of living under their different types of rules and regulations, well, the Western Australian teams had to abide by everyone else's rules, even though it was fine over here. Shoe on other foot, well, the over East teams don't care. They're going to do what they like, and Western Australia are going to get cooked again. And I think both teams, look, that could be shocking news for Fremantle Dockers supporters because they're the team that's looking on the rise this year. And Charlie, I don't know if it's good news for you, big fella.
I'm certainly very worried.
You got me all excited about Freo, and then you dropped that bomb on me.
Stay excited. I just think it's an issue that we need to be aware of. It's not really getting spoken about. I think maybe Western Australians are too busy sort of stressing about their own backyard, but I don't know. Freo and West Coast are going to cop it this year. I'm not boding very well for those players and their families, which is disappointing given a lot of friends of the family here at BackChat. Now, you send it. We read it. Well, how does this work? I forget every time. How does this work, Dan?
Basically, you send it, we read it. You send us an email at hello@backchatpodcast. No, it's hello. Oh gosh, it's been that long since I've had to think about the email. backchatpodcast.com.au. Is that right?
No, that's a website. Hello. At backchatpodcast.com.au.
Yeah. Hello at. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
I panicked for a second there, but you got me
That's
right.
okay. Hey, sorry about Dan, everyone. He's just not having his best day, but that's okay. It's time to make up for it, Dan. This is the favorite part of your podcast where you get to read the emails. I've put a challenge to you last week. I said, you haven't been at your best reading the emails, Dan. Can you be at your best today? And
I've said, of course, wouldn't expect anything less.
Marty C10, question for Da Boish.
Da Boish. G'day, boys. Long-time listener, first-time sender.
Love that.
Bit of apropos of nothing, but I'm a big fan of my local community Facebook page. Just want to get your thoughts on the raging debate at the moment as to who is the most dangerous group of people in society right now.
Wow.
Oh, boy. Vladimir Putin and his Soviet sorority. That's A. B. Wow. Reckless pet owners who let their dogs off the lead at the park. B, which is me. C. Kids sucking on vapes, riding their e-scooters after dark. Or D. Parents. I didn't realize there was an E as well. D. Parents picking their kids up from school, pulling up slightly on your verge so their kids can hop in their car. Or E. Other. Cheers, Martin.
Okay, Martin. I will say other. I'm going to fill in the blank there, and it's people who order filet-o-fishes at McDonald's. That's what E is. Happy with that, Dan?
Yep, sure. There's nothing. Okay, yep. All right. There's nothing wrong with a filet-o-fish.
Right. Okay, so the most dangerous group of people in society right now, I'm taking Vladimir Putin out of this, if that's okay with everyone else. I don't really want to get into global politics,
we're not.
And I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I think the four others are far more dangerous, potentially dangerous anyway. Reckless pet owners. Did you say that's one of you? You let your dog off at the park, dude?
Yeah, I go across the park, across the road. It's a dog park. You let your dog off. They all hang out and have a good time. It's great.
Okay. Well, I guess yeah, it's more like the parks that aren't like specifically dog parks, and you see the dogs run around off leash, and people are
Yep.
out there with their dogs on leash.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know,
Yeah,
bit of respect,
sometimes, you
maybe.
know what, something that I heard not that long ago that really made me think was sometimes it's more about the dog that's on the lead. It's not about
How have you
your
not?
dog.
How have you not thought about that?
Well,
How have you not
I've
thought
just
about
always
that?
had such a friendly dog that's never done anything wrong. So,
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, I mean, we were just all about it. Maybe just keep your dog over by you, and just you get a happy, loving dog. Oh, that's good. Just look after your dog, mate. Keep it in your own personal space. You're a dangerous human being. C, kids sucking on vapes, riding their e-scooters after dark. Are you one of those, Dan?
no, I have I've got a rule. I probably don't ride it once the sun goes down unless I really have to. But I don't have a
And
vape either.
no sucking on vape
No
while
sucking on the
riding.
vape. No.
Okay, they're ruled out.
Mhm.
Parents picking their kids up from school, pulling up slightly on your verge. So it sounds like Martin's got an issue with this, so their
Yeah.
kids can hop in their car.
I got no comment on this, but obviously Martin's got some beef with someone that's pulling up on his verge.
For mine, then it's between fillet fish ordering and dogs off the leash at parks, and you're both of those people, Dan. So you're out. Charlie, you get to decide on this, mate. Fillet fish ordering or dogs?
Look, I also do let my dog off at the park, so I'm going to
fuck
have to go with the fillet fish.
you're a smart man, Charlie, and you're a dangerous human being, Dan.
You know what?
Const.
Uber Eats is open. I'm a bit hungry, so fillet fish might be on order. It's
They
good.
couldn't be dishing that out. They actually couldn't be ordering. They couldn't be delivering that.
It's true. It's very fresh.
Andrew, Becca, sibling rivalry. Very good, Andrew. Here we go.
Dearest _ Scoey _ Const.
Oh,
Long time listener
love it.
here and love what you guys do. Love the rawness and unfiltered way you guys run things. I've been catching up on 2.0 since moving to Sweden.
Hey.
If that sounds familiar, I'm the guy who named his son Lewis after the best kick to grace the wonderful game.
Nice.
Your first question or guess got me thinking about my greatest sporting achievement. I know what you're thinking. Who the fuck is this guy? And why would we care when it doesn't include a flag, 8-4 against South Africa, etc., etc.? Well, firstly, we love everyone's, and we had a lot of good ones, by the by, at Biz with BackChat.
Well
like to
done.
mention
Yes. Yes.
Fair point, I say, but hear me out. I was born and grew up in Darlington, hence a little extra respect for Swans players. Before my family moved east, I have a brother that is 7 years old, and the rivalry is fierce, to say the least. The type of rivalry that every year for Christmas we got new table tennis bats, and within minutes at least one was broken, and a fresh dent in the table appeared. Growing up, when I was 5 or 6, we would play basketball and roller hockey, with my brother always letting me get to 19, thinking I was on the verge of winning for the first time, only for his miraculous comeback to begin and take the win. That's for first 21.
Love that.
When I was 16 or 17, we played a game of basketball. It was no longer to let me get to 19 and make a comeback scenario. I don't remember the score of this particular game, but it was close, and towards the end, he made a drive for a layup, and I slapped that shit out of his hands and out of the court. This was the first time he had been blocked and beaten by his younger brother. 15 years later, and I'm not sure he has picked up a basketball since. Obviously he has, and the rivalry continues to this day. My beloved brother Michael is a listener of the pod, so I'm sure he would love to be reminded of the first time his little brother rejected the shit out of him. Although, to be honest, I'm sure he thinks about it every day. I'm sure he probably does. We'd love to hear of any sibling rivalries with upcoming guests and how that drove them to become the amazing sports person they are and has earned them a coveted spot on BackChat. Cheers, Andrew.
Very good, Andrew. And suck shit, Michael. Stop
Yeah, take
beating up
that.
on your younger brothers. Are you a younger sibling, Dan?
Yeah, much younger as well. Okay, the only thing I can really think of this was that my sisters, we had a Super Nintendo at home, and we used to play like a Street Fighter type game, and I have vivid memories of them like playing. We play against each other, and they would push me to the very side of the screen and just like punch the shit out of me in Street, and I could never get out of it. And I just remember being really upset as a kid, feeling like they were cheating.
Yeah, that's great. Charlie?
Yeah, big sibling rivalry, actually. My brother, you met him the other day, came down to Beers with BackChat, and he did want to share his best sporting moment. He didn't get to because I didn't give him the mic.
Bit of roaming Charlie for anyone who wasn't
of
there. We
roaming
sent Charlie out into the audience for the greatest sporting moments at Beers with BackChat, and I love that you didn't give your brother the mic, Charlie. Very good.
Because what he wanted to say was that his greatest sporting moment was getting a hat trick off the same batsman. And it's possible that batsman was me.
Unlucky.
What is this in the backyard? How are you doing that? What's happening?
This was backyard cricket a couple months ago, down south.
A couple of months ago, Charlie. Play a straight bat, mate. Eye on the ball.
I've never been a cricketer. I'm not a cricketer.
Yeah, we can tell.
I like watching it. Yeah.
My sibling rivalries. I'm a youngest child. I just tell my older brothers that I'm the favourite child, and I am. It's not made up. Like, I am the favourite child. That's the rivalry, and it's over because I win.
Yeah, good. I'll take that one too. I'm definitely the favourite.
Excuse me. Now, Philip White. Let's do it, Phil. We love this.
Russian athletes. Here we go. Dear Will, Dan, Charlie, and Kat, while the war between Ukraine and Russia is both complicated and messy, I would like your opinion on Russian athletes. Teams and sporting organisations being banned from competing on the international stage or even being televised to the world. What influence, if any, does any athlete, club, or sporting organisation have on foreign affairs? Are we as a society punishing athletes who have done nothing wrong and possibly don't support Putin's decision to invade, but rightfully fear for their lives and the lives of their families if they speak out against it? There's a PS here. PS on a lighter note: Will Charlie being competing in the 2022 Clear Bachelor of the Year, or is he looking to compete in something a bit harder to win? Charlie first off.
Oh, well, I'd love to be considered, first of all. I just have to say, if I ever want a self-esteem boost, I just got to read Philip White's emails. He's always so nice to me.
There you go. I don't know why.
It's good. No, I do. Charlie's playing the freaking role. He's very good.
Okay. Look. The one that comes to mind straight away, Nikita Mazepin. He's the driver for Haas, the F1 team, Russian driver. Won't be driving for the F1 this year. The FIA have said no, it's a no-go. Is it fair? Look, it's complicated. It's hard because even if they don't support Putin's decision to invade Ukraine, there are some complicated documents in which he was forced to sign, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot to it, which I don't know the full story of. I think there'll be some innocent Russian athletes out there that are like, I don't want to get involved in any of this. I just want to do my job. They're not allowed to. I think it's messy. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I was asked this on radio last week, and I kind of had the opinion I don't think athletes should be, suffering for the political decisions of their leaders. But then it was kind of put to me that that's kind of the point, is to put pressure on the political leaders, is to punish members of their society and almost reverse engineer the pressure. And, if every sporting star, Russia's a big sporting city. They do well at the Olympics. They've got huge teams across multiple sports. They're a big sporting nation. So if Australia was doing something wrong to another country and they banned all Australians at all sporting activities around the world, I dare say publicly there'd be a lot of pressure put on our politicians to be, it might actually engage people that aren't attached politically. I'm not engaged politically in this country. I'm really not. I'm sick of it and I'm over it, and I really have detached myself. But if sport came into it and suddenly they just stopped playing AFL and they stopped any international competition for Australians, I'd start piping up internally. And so I think that's kind of the point of it. Are innocent sports people going to suffer? Absolutely. And I think that sucks because especially for Olympians, they got one chance every 4 years, and they got, however you feel about what's going on over there, they got decisions being made out of their control that then that's gone. They never get that back ever.
Yep.
Now, one last one from Geordie Flynn. G'day, Jord.
Hey boys, just wanted to get an insight of what happened the night before the 2018 Grand Final. Did you do anything different or just keep to the usual schedule? Also, what happened the morning of? Was there a communal breakfast? What did the boys consume? I'll read this PS and then we'll get back to that question. PS, with 7 minutes to go in the second quarter, De Goey kicks a through ball inside 50 to a running Myercheck with Governor's tail with no chance of catching him. Scoey begins to sprint from the 50-metre line looking like he has too much ground to make up, and then out of nowhere turns on the heat and beats Myercheck to save a goal in what was reminiscent of the Jetta v Cyril sprint. Is there any data we can get about the speed and acceleration of that sprint from Scoey's tracker? I haven't seen that sort of extreme pace since Usain sent from his iPhone. There you go.
Very, very good. Thank you, Geordie.
Good moment there. So night off. And what about dinner? Like, what are you doing for dinner the night before? Are you thinking about it? Like, not too heavy? Same with breakfast.
It's a good question. I would have tried to keep it pretty normal. And that would pretty much be the mantra is don't do anything too differently than what we did the whole year. I mean, we won a fair few games away from home that year. And the hotel food is buffet style. So breakfast, dinner, lunch, they're all buffet. And you can, there's pasta, there's... it's actually making me really think what I did that morning. I reckon I was the last person in there. I had a late breakfast. I always used to like sleeping in. I was a big sleeper when we're on the road because time difference changed. And even that morning I would have been nervous, but I would have slept in. I was the last person to have breakfast, meaning I was the last person to shower in between breakfast and lunch or leaving. And we would have left earlier for the grand final that day. So it would have been, I probably would have eaten a bit more for lunch than I usually do because we had more time. Maybe a little bit of pasta, but pretty light, couple of, maybe one toasted sandwich, that sort of setup. But all of it would have been pretty normal. And night before, I can't actually remember. I can't remember what I did. It was obviously nothing memorable. I would have been trying to think about not thinking. I would have been trying to just watch a movie or try to get out of my own head, try to get myself to sleep so I didn't have to think about what was going to come up the next day.
There you go.
That's it, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
That is very much it, my man. We're going to chat to now our first Freo Docker on the show, Hayden Ballantyne. Charlie, are you excited for this one, mate?
Very excited. I've got my gear behind me. I've got my gear on. Do you want to see the shirt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Show us your T-shirt, mate. What is it? So for people just listening, it's a Clive Waterhouse special. It looks like it could be like an 80s band glam T-shirt style.
I was going to say a mural in a church. I mean, that is something that is beautiful, Charlie.
Good thing is you can pray to this as well,
Yeah. There you go.
Very good. Clive Waterhouse, he was on the very top of our list when we first started the reboot here at BackChat. Dan, maybe we can...
I've tried, but we'll keep trying.
And Tony Modra?
Keep trying.
Okay. I think Hayden Ballantyne could be even an upgrade from those two. So let's do Ballas right now. Alrighty, we are very, very happy and honoured to be joined on BackChat by the first Fremantle Docker to join BackChat, and I absolutely love it. It's been too long, in my opinion. Charlie's a very big Fremantle fan. Dan, you say you're a West Coast fan. I think you are, but who knows? I clearly West Coast fan, but this man, Hayden Ballantyne, joins us now on BackChat. G'day, Ballas. How are you, mate?
G'day, gents. How you going?
Good. Now we've dragged you off the fields, the horses all sorted out, mate. We've dragged you off the farm for this chat. You're all sorted over there at Ballantyne Racing.
Yeah, mate. All sorted, all fed, all watered, all rugged. So they're good to bed down for the night.
Quick question about the horses. I'm a Simpsons fan, and I remember Lisa. There was this one episode where she has this brick of salt, and it's like a salt lick for the horse. Is that a thing?
Yep.
That's a thing.
That's a thing. They've all got a salt lick out there. Yeah. Well, you think that we can't give them a Powerade to replenish all their salts and minerals they lose, so we give them a salt lick and they lick away. They love it.
There you go.
There you go. Well, you can't let anyone tell anyone else that BackChat don't get to the bottom of the big questions here. Now, I want to start with this one, Ballas. We ask every guest we've ever had on this podcast the same question first up, and it's not about salt licks. It's about you. Now, we know that you've been a good football player. You've done a lot of things on the footy field, and that's great. And we're here to say we don't really care off the top here. I'd like to know your greatest sporting achievement not on the football field. Don't tell us about kicking goals, selling candy. I have a feeling it could be in the horsing realm, but we need your greatest sporting achievement. It can be anything. Andrew Bogut had poker. Peter Bowl had basketball. Tommy Hawkins had hurdle, high jumping. Could be anything. What's yours?
Yeah, it would be horses. I would have thought winning my first race with Mankind would be right up there for me. I've actually I had one of the junior records for javelin when I was in. I don't know I think it was first year of high school. I got one of the junior records for javelin, so I had a pretty good arm on me.
You are not built like a javelin thrower. What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm not tall and lanky, but there's a little bit of power there, Scully. You've felt a bit of that before, so it's yeah. I had a bit of an arm on me when I was younger, and yeah, I used to be able to let them fly pretty good.
Get low to the ground and just launch it.
Yeah. Oh, the short jokes coming in already, are they?
Mate, no, I'm shorter than you, so it's all good. We're in this together. It's fine.
Nah, that was in the first year of high school. I think it was. It's good.
What I mean, talking about being a young fella, you started playing in Mandurah. You're Mandurah boy, Peel Thunder. That's where we first met. So it's worth noting, listeners, that Hayden Ballantyne and I, although most would think we are fierce rivals, which we were for a long period of our career, we did start it as teammates at Peel Thunder. You won a Sandover medal there in 2008. Just shortly before there, a big career-changing moment happened. I was, in fact, drafted to the footy club. So would it be fair to say that I taught you everything you know in terms of football? Or
there's three blokes that keep telling me they won me the Sandover that year. You're one of them, and the 46 goals I kicked had nothing to do with it. But no, it was always good having the actual AFL boys come down and play at Peel, and yeah, it's just good to compare ourselves to guys like Scully and Bunga. Bunga was down there as well. He played a fair few games down there at Peel. Kicked a goal from the centre circle. I remember that. Had the wind behind him to kick the goal from the centre circle. That was unreal.
He says to everyone that there's a plaque on the field at Rushton Park where he kicked that goal. They put this bronze plaque out there on the wing. Is that true or not true?
It was a bit it wouldn't overtake the sign, but it's yeah, he would have something out there.
Talk to me about the sign. Hayden Ballantyne wing. It's the first question you get asked all the time. What's going on there, mate?
Yeah, it is. It normally is the first question. So yeah, in 2000. I had a pretty good year, 2008, got drafted, Sandover, whatnot. And then 2009, I got invited to the president's lunch and sitting down having lunch. And no one told me that there was a sign on the other side with my name on it. And I'm looking over, I'm like, that looks like my name over there. And sure enough, Johnny Ditchburn had a big grin on his face and, yeah, said, we've named the wing after you. So, yeah, it's a bit of a proud moment.
Dan, Charlie, have you seen what we're talking about here? Have you seen this? Have you seen the sign?
Yep.
You can't miss it.
Yeah, I watched probably every game of Peel's in 2017, I think, when I was doing a bit of work with Peel, and I always remembered the Hayden Ballantyne wing. I wonder how that came about. It was just a little surprise thing for you.
It's when we used to play preseason games down there, we played Richmond down there one day, and yeah, Jack Rewalt would not leave me alone about it. Just kept on harping about it, saying, yeah, plenty of pleasant stuff, as you know Jack Rewalt does.
So you had a good year in 2008. You won the Sandover medal as a forward. You were a midfielder growing up, though. West Coast Eagle premiership player Muddy Waterman was the coach down there at the time. He chucked you down forward, played you as a forward because the kind of, the tall, small jokes come in, but you were overlooked for a couple of years there because people thought you were too small as a midfielder, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly right. And, I've always played pretty good footy as a midfielder. But then Muddy said, if you want to get drafted and play AFL, I suggest you go and have a crack playing forward. And yes, the best advice I ever got. I went forward and, kicked plenty of goals that year and got some real notice from AFL clubs and ended up getting picked up. I think it's a bit similar to Toby Green. Toby Green started as a midfielder. They had 15 midfielders vying for those 3 places in the midfield, and he goes forward, and now he's an All-Australian small forward. So we'll meet him small forward. So there's plenty of opportunities elsewhere on the footy field, not just in the midfield.
You were a West Coast fan growing up, though, weren't you? What was it like getting picked up by Freo?
As you would know, you'd be happy to get picked up anywhere. I was actually told I was going to get picked up from Hawthorn at 17 and West Coast at 20, Freo at 21, and Port Adelaide at 24. So the only one I really didn't want was Port Adelaide. So I was happy to get to Fremantle. But
why didn't you want to get picked by Port?
I don't really like Adelaide. It's not Port Adelaide itself. It's just Adelaide. There's not a whole lot going on over there. So I was pretty happy to stay in Perth. Moving to Melbourne to a big club would have been awesome too. But I was very lucky to play all my footy at one club in Perth.
It didn't have anything to do with you missing the state combine testing results because you're on a footy trip, did it?
Oh, maybe, probably. I never know. It's that's another funny story. I had it all planned. I was going to Thailand with the Peel boys for a footy trip, and then I get a phone call from my manager saying, "What's going on? You're meant to be at the Peel at the draft combine." I was like, I thought it was all organised. I could have come over here, and shit hit the fan, and luckily they let me off, and I got to do a beep test by myself.
We can hear your kids in the background there, Ballas. You're a father of 3 daughters, mate.
3 girls. They're just come in from riding their horses, so they'll be making a bit of noise. Girls!
You don't have to. It's all right, mate. There's kids running around everywhere on this podcast too. It's good. Oh, I just want to make the point. You're a father of three girls. I know spoken a bit to you. We've been out on the road together about coaching them and them playing footy. It sounds like there's a couple of Ballantynes up and comers.
Yeah, the oldest, she's getting right into her footy. She played last year and went really well. First time she ever picked up footy was only last year, and played a full season. Got runner up best and fairest, and she actually goes really good. She broke her arm falling off a horse a few months ago, so she was tossing up whether to play, but she's going to play again. And then the second one, she's been toying with the idea of playing footy as well. So it might be a few more Ballantynes coming through the ranks, hopefully.
I'll leave the next one for you, Dan, while I fix my headphones up, mate.
Yeah, you fix your headphones. Well, at least as you're growing up playing, as a West Coast fan, and then getting drafted into Fremantle, it might be sort of the opposite now. Are your girls Fremantle fans as they've grown up?
Yeah, they are. Just because they had to come and watch me play every week, and they love the footy club. And it's also Ross Lyon was very big on family within the footy club. So all the kids, they all know each other. They used to play around the change rooms after games and go annoy the boys after a game of footy. So it was a really good environment for all the kids, and that's why they love the footy club.
Well, let's hope if the way that it keeps going is that if they do get drafted, if they do want to play AFL, they do get drafted in the Freo, because West Coast, I don't know, won one game in the last 4 seasons or something for the women's league. So hopefully they get drafted into a good team there.
Yeah, and it's great that they've got those avenues coming through Waffle now, and they actually can play AFL with a Freo or a West Coast or whatever AFL jersey they get drafted to. So, it's exciting times for all the girls running around playing footy now.
Bellas, I want to start with this one, which is around your perception as a footy player. Like, there's a lot of West Coast fans that listen and watch this podcast, and I think a lot of people would not know you as a bloke, and I was fortunate enough to know you. You had a perception of being this antagonist, well, a little shit on the footy field, which, I'm not going to argue with that, to be honest. But how did you find that sort of perception with how you were as a footy player and how you are as a bloke? Because in my experience, it's been different experiences.
To be honest, I loved it. I love that perception. I was out there to do a job and to win games. I wasn't out there to make friends. I was out there to kick goals, tackle people, hurt people if I could, and win games. So, if I annoyed anyone, you know, I won't be apologising. That was my job. I was out there to do a job, and the thing was, I could back it up with my footy too. You know, I'd cause a bit of shit and stir a few people up, but then I'd come out and kick a few goals, and I think that's what really got people annoyed, is that I could actually back it up with my footy as well.
I often, my sporting career, which is often documented and talked about a lot on this podcast, did get compared to you as an athlete, in that I would get on the, I played a lot of basketball and a lot of indoor cricket and stuff, and often did like to chirp and cause a bit of a stir, and people often said, classic Hayden Ballantyne over here. The only difference was that I couldn't really back it up, and so I was just all talk. But you just got to use what you got. If it's a tool, then you got to use it.
100%. And, you know, I'll probably kick 10, 20 goals just off free kicks, just because someone snapped and chipped me on the jaw like someone from Geelong did, and I'll kick a goal and we won that game by 5 points. So, you know, joke's on them because we win the game. But to be honest, it was what the outside perception was. What if it ducks back? I was very determined and very driven to win games and play in finals and try and win a premiership. So, you know, if I pissed a few people off, I won't be apologising anytime soon.
Now, Dan, I'm hoping my mic's still working well, mate, because I made that change up. You boys hear me fine still?
Hear you well, loud and clear, mate. Yep.
Bella's like, so you did have this reputation of stirring people up, and it's good to hear that you love that as well. I feel like if I reflect on you and me through our careers, I never copped the full wrath, and I was reflecting about it today when I was thinking about chatting to you. I never copped the full Hayden Ballantyne. I really can't remember a time where you really went at me that hard. Why was that?
I don't want to say it, but I might have liked you a little bit, maybe.
You could have just said I was shit, not good enough to go at.
I could say that too. I would always target the best defenders. Like, with all due respect, Scott, I don't mean to pull the piss, but, you know, Matty Scarlett was always the first one I'd go to, because he was the best defender in the comp at that time. You know, Geelong were the best team, and I'd always loved playing against Geelong because they were the target. They were the ones we wanted to beat. If we wanted to be the best team, we had to beat the best teams, and Geelong were at that time. So Matty Scarlett, Corey Enright, they were the best defenders in the comp. And as soon as I seen them on the field, my eyes lit up, and I thought, you boys are going to have a long night tonight, because I'm going to give it to you all night, and I'm going to kick some goals on you. And that was my mentality. I wasn't out there to make a friend. I was out there to win a game and do my job. And I think that's why Ross Lyon picked me every week, because I would do my job, and everyone knew it.
Who are you blokes at West Coast?
Sorry, you go, mate.
Who are you blokes at West Coast?
Well, to be honest, had nothing to do with Andy Brayshaw, but before that was Gaff. He was always a target because he had that perception of being a bit soft, and you could intimidate him, but you actually couldn't. Like, he just kept on getting up. You'd bash the shit out of him. You just kept getting up. So he was always one. Shannon Hearn, you know, you try and get stuck into him, try to take him out in some way, but he never said anything. He was too nice. He was always just the nice person that would never give you a tap on the back when you try and clean him up. Like, he's always been too nice, which pissed me off a bit. Basically someone who I thought I could get an edge over, someone that I thought would snap and I could just take them out of the game, just through their mentality and the way they were going to approach it.
Did you and Ryan Crowley ever get together and talk about this? Because I feel like from the outside as well, he was always a bit of a pest and liked to get in niggle. Like, would you guys have a bit of a plan of attack on someone?
We never planned it, but it always happened. Like, Krauser was always on the best player, so he was the target. Not just for me. Like, I would always make a point of really getting stuck into him. But at Sco, you'd know the whoever was getting tagged, it wasn't just the tagger doing the job. The whole team did it. If they got away from the tagger, someone had to chase and make sure that player didn't get a kick or didn't kick a goal, because if they get up and about, they get the team up, that can cost us the game. So, you know, the poor bastards that went to Crowes, they had 22 players just into them all game.
The funny thing is, internally, these players externally, so we talk about Crowley and Ballantyne from Fremantle, that people, love to hate a little bit, but they'd probably be the two players from Fremantle that I would have loved to have played with on my team. And maybe Bellas, I don't know how you find it, but I sort of started getting towards the end of my career, being that instigator a bit. And because I was getting slow and old, or slower and older than I ever was, it just became a tool of my trade, trying to get under people's skin. And, at times it's, people don't like you, and in inverted commas, but in the end, I think people respect the fact that you're able to go at someone, but not very often are these sort of blokes that we talk about that it doesn't really carry off the field. I know Ryan Crowley personally as well. Like, unfortunately, a really good bloke, and same with you, Bellas. Like, unfortunately, you're actually a good bloke, which is it's probably disappointing to hear for a lot of West Coast fans.
Well, I remember. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I remember in 2016 when there was that sort of talk of and we'll maybe talk about this in a little bit later with you coming over to West Coast, potential for that. Like the moment that comes into conversation, West Coast fans will be like, "Yeah, sweet, we'll take him straight away." But like leading up to that, you'd sort of love to hate him. And the same with Crowley. I remember when he left Freo, and there was some potential for him to move. I would have taken him on West Coast any day, but leading up to that, didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, and I think that's because the players we were, you knew what you were going to get week in, week out. Like we gave everything we had. We might not have been the most skillful, we might not have been the best players out in the field, but you knew Krause's man wasn't going to get a kick. Krause would have got a kick, but his man wasn't getting a kick. You knew I was going to lay tackles and kick a couple of goals and get stuck into the opposition. So I think that's. And I've felt that perception too. I know a lot of people say they didn't like me and how much of a pest I was, but then a lot of them also said that I wouldn't mind you on my team as well.
So yeah, we will get to the stage at 2016. I think that you potentially almost came over to the dark side in West Coast. But before we get there, do you reckon the West Coast Freo rivalry is real? Is it a real thing, or is it something that is external? Like internally as a Freo player, was that something that was real to you?
It's real, yeah. 100% it's real. And anyone that says it is full of shit, because anyone that says it doesn't is full of shit, because it's a real rivalry. There's, not just the players. The players really want to get that one just because, it's our town for that, next 6 months, however long it is, and also the fans as well. The fans really build up for it. It's a very small town, Perth, and you want to have those wins when you can.
What was it like internally at Freo before a derby? Was it bigger than a normal game?
I wouldn't say it was bigger, but you always felt that angst. Like you could always try and block out that outside noise, but it always came in, and you definitely knew it was derby time. The feeling, the intensity in the game. Leading into the game, it wasn't so different. Once you got into the game, you felt that energy from us and from the opposition as well. It just went up 20%, and you could definitely feel it was real. And we had a good stint there. I think we won 6 or 7 straight. Then it was tit for tat for a while, and lately it's been all West Coast. So yeah, hopefully the tides turn this year for us.
I always describe derbies as close to finals as you could get, not in a final, because the finals definitely had that, different feeling of intensity and, contest meaning more. And that's what derbies felt like. So I agree with you. Anyone who says it's not a bigger deal is kidding themselves, because it was as close to finals as you could get. Like, I remember playing my first derby. I don't remember playing my first game against, I don't know, Essendon or Richmond or St Kilda. Like, who really cared? I remember playing my first derby and thinking, holy shit, this is AFL. This is the real stuff now.
Yeah, and we had that with West Coast, from the get-go. And then a couple of years in, we built that rivalry with Geelong as well. And whenever we played Geelong, again, they were the best team. And it just happened without anyone saying it. We just put a big target on their backs. And there was a game in 2009. It was my first time I played Geelong. And they were just nasty. They were so nasty. They ended up winning the flag that year, and I thought, I really like this team, and I want to be like this team and beat this team. And then from then on, pretty much from 2010, that was it. We just got stuck right in, and I think we won more games than we lost against them. And I'll never forget Matty Scarlett stuck his knee into Pav in that 2009 game, and I didn't go over and get stuck into him. That's the one. I don't have many regrets, but I really regret that, not going over and getting stuck into Matty Scarlett because he stuck his knee into the captain. And but from then on, I made up for it, I think.
Huh, that's an interesting observation. I had the same thing with Tyrone Vickery. He, I don't remember in Coxey's. Well, it was in one of Coxey's milestone games, and he knocked him out in a ruck contest. He king hit him.
Yeah.
I probably wasn't close enough, but I always remember that instant because I didn't go and just beeline him and just shit mix him. And I had the same feeling about Richmond. Ever since then, I've just hated Richmond. And I never knew that about you, Bellas. It's unreal. Yeah. So back on derbies, right? You had some big derby moments. Let's go through a couple. We'll start with the one that's probably more publicly renowned, which is your shot after the siren. Talk me through that.
I missed. To be honest, you wouldn't even be able to kick that fast, Scully. So it was a pretty good effort, I would have thought. It was, final siren, 50 out. Quinton Lynch, he's not the prettiest man to look at when I'm coming in for a shot on goal. And he was on the mark, and I had to kick it from 55 and hit the post. So I thought it was a pretty good effort.
Could you see him? I mean, you were that far off the man on the mark. Could you even see who was on the mark? Like you kicked the ball from the middle of the ground, mate.
They probably should have called play on, to be honest. But I'm glad they did. Imagine the umpire though, how much shit he would have copped if he called play on. Like he wouldn't have walked out of that stadium.
So what I remember of this, I'll say my side of the story, and you can say how it looked from your boot, Bellas. But two things post game. I've never seen someone get a bigger dressing down on a Monday than Quinton Lynch did because of the way he manned the mark. He gave you, I reckon, an extra 20 metres to come outside the boundary because of the way he manned the mark. So that was our first. That was, you know how they've got the stand rule now, Dan? You know how you got to stand still? Well, that was the messaging from West Coast was if you had just stood still, he would have been 20 metres out, but he actually followed Ballas out as he came around, which sort of, the umpire couldn't call play on. The second part I remember, being a tall player, I was on the line. The siren went, and so pretty much half the team was down there. And I looked at Eric McKenzie next to me, and another tall player, Nick Nananui, was behind us, and we had a three-way quick conversation. I had to be quick because Ballas was going back to have the shot, and said, "All right, Nick, you use us as a trampoline. We're going to position ourselves as a human." Scaffolding, and you got to climb up and mark the ball and walk off the ground with the ball in your hands. Anyway, Ballas comes in, kicks the goal. I think I'm linking arms with Eric McKenzie. This is how stupid it was, and we're watching, and it was just I just got frozen in time, and I was on the complete wrong side of the goal. Me and Eric with this springboard that was nowhere near where we needed to be. Nick Nananui had nothing to do with the contest, and it required a sort of a Josh Kennedy, Hayden Ballantyne poster. Don't know how it sort of didn't go through the goals to kick the goal, but I just remember being frozen in time. I thought it was a goal, Ballas.
I thought it was a goal too. It was a goal all the way, and then faded the last bit, and it wasn't meant to be. Imagine if it was though.
You gave it. You did celebrate like it was a goal.
It was going, mate. We all were. It was going in. It just that last 10 metres just faded and hit the post. But yeah,
was it ever not going to be your kick? Because there was quite a few people there, and it's sort of like you sort of waited there, but like you were probably the closest person to the umpire. Was there any quick discussion?
The only other Freo player that was within the vicinity was Adam McPhee. And he can barely kick over a jam tin, so it was. And being a small forward, big head, I wanted to have the shot and try to get all the glory myself. So I did my best.
I remember Adam McPhee's. They used to spin a lot. Is that true? Just a quick recollection of Adam McPhee kicking the ball. He used to have a lot of backspin, and they used to go about 20 metres.
Yeah, never used to kick it long. Yeah, he would just. His job was either handball or kick it short, just hold the ball up. That was, know your strengths, mate.
All right, another derby moment. You kicked 6 goals in a derby, but no Glen Denning and now Glen Denning Allen medal. 6 goals and no medal. What happened there?
Yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. My big mate Aaron Sandilands pinched it off me. I think he had about 70 hitouts or something. And he did. He was okay, but it wasn't 6 goals. 6 goals, 2, and I think I had 20-something possessions as well. So it was a decent game. And he took the Glen Denning. I got the Brownlows that game and top votes in the BNF, so I'll let him know about that as well.
And probably a sour note, the Andrew Gaff, Andy Brayshaw incident in 20, what was that?
18.
18 or not? 18 it was, yeah.
18. It was 2018.
Premiership year.
Yeah, that. I mean, that was a big moment. It's not a good one, but you're involved in that pretty closely.
Yeah, it was. I was actually on the bench when it happened, and Lockie Neal said Gaff just belted Andy, and Andy was on the deck. And I said, like I was saying before, I was like, no, because I played footy with Gaffy over in Ireland for the international rules, and he's the most placid, nicest bloke you'll ever meet. Like, barely says boo, and I thought, nah, no chance. Like, if you look at the swing, like he he doesn't even know how to punch, let alone actually landing one. And then he did. He just took a wild swing, and I don't think he actually intentionally meant it, but he got him. And we were out for blood, and I'll never forget Ross. I said to Ross, "Can I get him?" And Ross looked at me like he wanted to say yes, and he said, "No, don't dirty your name." So I had to keep me fist to myself, and I still lined him up. I ended up breaking my thumb trying to line him up after coming in off the square, but it wasn't a great day for me.
So Ross, the boss, has said no, you can't get him, but you've tried to anyway. What was said at 3/4 time? I'll give you my perspective at the end of all this, but I'm interested to know sort of what were the discussions from the Freo side.
Yeah. So it was. We were all told what happened, and we were to go out there and stand up for our teammate, our brother. So, when I said let me get him, I wanted to go out and have a proper biff. Like, it was pretty bad what happened, and we were all going out there to have a proper go. But Ross, wouldn't let us. No demo derby 2.0.
There was a couple of the boys still stood up for the Freo lads still stood up for Andy. It wasn't like you said, "Oh, no worries, Ross, we're not going to stick up for him." He's still within the rules. A few hard tackles, a few boys target him for most of the game.
That was it. We still try to keep within the rules. We didn't want to get a bad reputation as thugs or anything. So we weren't going to let it slide, but we weren't going to overstep the mark too much. And that was pretty much all because of Ross's words.
So I was I played that game. I did my hammy in the first quarter, and I was on the bench too. And the first I knew about it, it was the Freo side of the crowd were booing Gaffy every time he got near the ball, and I couldn't figure out what had happened. So the actual communication to our side of the bench, I didn't know what had happened until 3/4 time, and and that, like, God's honest truth, like, that's what was sort of going on. I was like, what's happened? And then I had the same reaction as you, and you're spot on. Gaffy, if I had to name out of 45 blokes on West Coast list at that time, he would be the 45th bloke to have done that. And so that's why, although it clearly wasn't an accident in terms of, it didn't, he hit him in the head, but he didn't go out there going, "Oh, I'm going to punch on with someone." Like, he's just the most placid human being you'll ever come across in your life. So the way it sort of went down was just strange from my point of view. It was like, I've never seen anything like it. But then I guess, at the time I was really fired up. I couldn't get out there and defend Gaffy because he was my teammate. You got someone getting targeted by an opposition, no matter what's happened, you're going to stand up for them. So I was all riled up on the bench, wanting to go out there and probably fight you, Bellas, and fight everyone else who was targeting Gaffy. But, looking back on it now, and I was, pretty defensive of him in the media that week, and, as I would, but looking back on it now, I can respect what the Freo players did as well. Like, if one of our first year players, our number one draft pick, got effectively king hit by a Freo player, I'm sure just as bad, if not worse, would have happened from our side. So I saw a lot of commentary around from different supporters. Freo fans and Freo players shouldn't be doing this. Like, you boys were just standing up for your mate. I think any other team or players would have done the same thing. Like, it was a bloody hard situation to watch, though. It was a strange one, really.
100%. And when you're within a footy team, you would literally do just about anything. When you're on the park, you do anything. Doesn't matter if you like every one of your teammates. Like, there were teammates out there that I didn't really get on with, but they had the same colour jersey on as me, so they were my brothers for that game and that day, and you just stick up for them. And Andy Brayshaw he's similar to Gaffy, probably a bit more outspoken than Gaffy, but similar. Nicest bloke, would do anything for you, and seeing him go down like that, it made a few of the boys' blood boil.
Now,
The funny thing was, I got fined. I got about $5,000 worth of fines that game, and he actually messaged me and offered to pay my fines for that game for sticking up for him. That's what he said. That's the kind of person he is.
Who, Andy Brayshaw did?
Andy Brayshaw, rang me and said, I offered to pay my fines. I said, no, mate, I should have took it though.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You go, Dan.
What was your so you wanted to go at Gaffy, and obviously you sort of targeted some players in the past, just pestering him and stuff. What's in Hayden Ballantyne's bag of things that you're going to do to a player or say to him? Like, what are your regular things that you would use?
It's funny. The simplest thing is just the bump. Like, I can actually, if I put a bit of force in and bump, just standing side by side, and you get a little fella bumping a big fella and nearly knock them over, and they get so pissed off with it because they get nearly knocked over by someone smaller than them. And it's just a macho man thing. They don't like it, and then they just lose the plot. And it's the funniest. It's actually hilarious just to see the reactions on some of those big guys. Alex Rance was actually quite funny. I ran into him one day, and he looked at me and goes, "You're a dense little effer, aren't you?" And like just because I hit him pretty good, and he just took the wind out of him. So it was it was pretty. I could collect people pretty well when I wanted to.
You have a little pinch, little elbow in there.
You see that in the media. That's that I was taught all that stuff from Stephen Baker. He used to play on me, and I was actually quite nice until he played on me for the first few times, and he'd punch you behind the elbows, and you couldn't feel your hands the next 3 days. Like, the elbow punch used to really hurt. He'd pretend to push you in the chest, and he'd stick his fingers in your throat so you can't breathe for like 30 seconds. The pinching was a good one. That used to really hurt. So there's a lot of stepping on toes, walking past someone and just sticking the knee in. That's just things. Sammy Mitchell, he was classic for that, sticking the knee in every now and then. It's just little tricks of the trade you learn off the more senior players.
Speaking of punches, I've got to ask something. I was doing a bit of research earlier, and I was watching some Ballantyne highlights, and one of the top things that came up on YouTube was he punched me in the nuts. that when Heath Shaw hits you.
Well,
how's that getting caught on the microphone?
Yeah, like, it dropped me. It hurt because he got me flush, and I was getting stuck in him on the deck, and he's just similar to the Gaff, just a swinging fist, and he got me right in the sweet spot, and it hurt. And another one. It's free shot on goal and kick the goal.
Oh, it's very good. So let's talk about Ross Lyon and what he was able to do with your footy club for a decently long period of time. You've openly been pretty close to him, both publicly and at the footy club, but also privately. What sort of relationship did you have with Ross?
Yeah, really, really strong relationship, and again, he likes and respects the players that give effort and give everything they have for their team, and that was something he kind of built into me. I always had a crack, but he really focused on that, and he rewarded that a lot. So I knew if I went out there and give everything every week, I'll be playing every week. So, but he also brought a lot of discipline to the footy club. We were a good team that would win games a bit sporadically. We'd go through, win 3 or 4, then we'd lose 3 or 4. We could always kick big scores, but then we get big scores kicked against us as well. And he recognised that straight away and just brought that defensive method to us. Kicking goals wasn't our problem. It was stopping the opposition from getting runs on. And once he instilled that into us, that defensive method, the goals just came naturally. And then we took off. 2012 was his first year, and we played finals 12, 13, 14 and 15. So, proof's in the pudding of how good a coach he is.
I mean, people externally think that Ross Lyon is defensive, defense only, game plan that But it sounds like it was more the discipline aspect, and you knew what you had to do on the defensive side of the ball. Like, you guys were still scoring and playing well, attacking wise.
Our defence started in our forward 50 though, with forward pressure. Once we got it inside our 50, you'll see all our forwards are just harassing the shit out of the opposition defenders. Our mids are pushing in, trying to kick a goal, and our defenders are pushed up to the midfield, where once the opposition do kick it out, you've got Luke McFarlane and those type of guys marking the ball and trying to kick it back in 50. So, and everyone says that he's such a defensive coach, but realistically, he was teaching us to defend inside our 50 where we'd kick goals.
So you mentioned 2012, 13, 14, 15. They were the years you made finals. I mean, a really strong period of time for the footy club. You made and lost a grand final in 2013, finished top of the ladder 2015. What that period of time, how do you look back on it? We'll speak specifically about the grand final, but that period of success, how do you look back on that personally?
Oh, the best memories was when you're walking down the race and you're looking at the players that are around you and how focused they were, and they were just animals. Like, you just knew what you were going to get every week, and you'd look at the opposition. I'd love Anzac days where you could actually look them all in the eye when they're lined up, and you just think, you poor bastards are in for a big night. So that was the best feeling ever, where you just knew the opposition were going to have a tough night. That if they were going to win, they had to play out of their skin, and they were the only teams that really beat us. Hawthorn were a super team who beat us on more occasions because they were just good. They were just better than everyone else and better than us on those nights.
What are your reflections on 2013, the grand final, losing grand final? How do you look back on that day?
I don't look back at it with any regret because of how much effort we give. Like, we were within 2.5 kicks of beating the best side for that 3 years in a row. They've won it 3 years in a row. They beat West Coast and Sydney by 50, 60 points. We lose to them by 15, and we had more marks inside 50, more shots on goal. All the KPIs, majority of our KPIs, were in the green. It just didn't work for us some days. A few bad bounces here, a few missed shots there, ended up costing us a game. And albeit it was bitterly disappointing to lose it, there's no regret because of the way we went about it.
Was there anything that you, in hindsight, would have sort of liked to have done differently in that year that you think, oh man, if this would have done separately, or we changed the way we prepped in any sort of way that you maybe thought we could have got over them, or with Hawthorn just unbeatable at that time?
Maybe asking a few more questions about grand final day. Like, we'd never been there before. Didn't know about the parade. Didn't know about all the performers and all the bullshit before the game, where you couldn't. Me and Sonny would always go out and have 20, 30 shots before a game. We got in trouble for going on the ground because there were performers and all that. So just the actual running of the day and how it all went about, that's the only thing. We were always ultra prepared. That was one of Ross's mantras: be prepared for anything. And you don't know what you don't know, and we didn't know how to prepare for that day. And I don't think that ultimately cost us the game, but it's just something that might have given us that extra couple of % that could have got us over the line.
Would you have done anything, like Dan sort of saying, would you have done anything differently? But if you did have that opportunity, so you finished first in 2015, which is the year that I think it probably should have been a Fremantle West Coast grand final. I mean, it was going that way. We finished top two, West Coast second, Fremantle first, and both had home prelims. Do you think making it in 2015, that preparation element is what you would have learnt and done differently?
Yeah, 100%. And also, it's pretty topical at the moment, the umpires, but also maybe trying to build a better relationship with the umpires, because if you actually have a bit of a relationship with them, they get off your back a bit more. Like, they don't, like, I didn't get on with them and they knew it, and it felt like we were targeted a little bit because, we'd always let them know our feelings, as I know you let them know your feelings as well, Will. But I think if we built a better relationship with the umpires and not spray them all the time, that might have helped a little bit as well, because there was a goal kicked against us in the final where I'd put a block on within the realms of fair, like just stepped in front of who's 16 for Hawthorn, the runner.
Birchall? No. 16 Birchall? No.
Anyway, he was the
Charlie?
wingman.
Charlie?
He'd run
Isaac
up and down
Smith.
all day.
Isaac Smith.
And Isaac Smith, yeah. I just stepped in front of him because I knew I wasn't going to be able to catch him, and he fell over, and he got a free kick to goal, and that was a bit of a turning point in that game. So little moments like that with umpires, if that umpire had a better thinking of me, maybe he wouldn't have given away that free kick.
I definitely.
I've got to ask about.
Yeah, you go, Dan.
I've got to ask about 2015. So I know it's a classic sports cliche of one game at a time, like, focusing on this week. But I mean, I guess this will be a question for both of you. Was there like discussion amongst anyone of like, man, this could be a Derby Grand Final after the end of the season?
It could be what? Sorry, a Derby Grand Final.
Yeah.
Nah. That, albeit the derbies were always a bigger game, that never really crossed my mind at all. It was more, let's just get there first. We just wanted to get there because we knew if we got there, we'd be hard to beat. We just didn't end up getting there. Hawthorn ended up getting there and getting the chocolates. But, we were just solely focused. We played Sydney, beat Sydney, and then we had a week off and thought we'd be fresh going into the Hawthorn game. But, there was actually a few lethargic boys. Sydney was my first comeback game from a torn pec. I tore my pec off the bone. And I'd missed 10 weeks and came back and played Sydney and felt amazing. Your first game, you always feel amazing coming back from long-term injury. And then the following week, I could barely get out of second gear. I was absolutely fried the whole game. And, it was hard work trying to get through the whole game.
Well, I remember watching, because you guys played on the Friday night, I'm pretty sure, in 2015. Oh,
yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, because like we watched, and you were leading for a fair bit. It was a bit of a arm wrestle, and there was some sort of stuff that happened late that ended up costing you the game. But that's how footy goes. But I remember watching it, thinking I wanted you guys to win, because not that West Coast thought we could beat Freo, because Freo were probably the best side all year. But I thought we probably had a better chance of playing well against Freo than Hawthorn at the G. It was the G thing for us, and seeing you guys lose, we went and beat North Melbourne, but then we had to go back and play Hawthorn again, and it was interesting, listening to you speak about that preparation element, because like we had what you had in 2013, although it was worse for us probably, but we had the opportunity in 2018 to kind of redo it, and I. Not that I'm, gloating or anything, but I feel really, it gave me a bit of closure, because 2015 for me was just this, horrendous kind of moment in my footy history. And that's how I would have looked back on it without a chance to kind of, redemption. And I know a lot of guys felt the same way in our team. So I just certainly don't feel sorry for you, but it was definitely a benefit for us losing that game, that whole lose one to win one. I think you'd agree, Bellas. If you had an opportunity to play again, you would have been in a better position to at least perform. But not to win or lose, but you would have just been in a better position, having been there before.
Yeah, 100%. And that's and you're right. You don't have to lose one to win one, but if you do lose one, I don't think you'd be losing the second one.
Yeah, correct. You catch up pretty regularly with that group of players. What's that's your personal? How does the rest of the group look back on that period of time and 2013, 2015?
There's some little feet. There's some little feet coming up the stairs.
You'll say goodnight.
Oh, she's got. Hey, go put some pajamas on. Go on. Shh.
We'll get Dad back to you in a second.
Yeah. So we catch up. Obviously, oi, go put some pajamas on. Life membership. That's always you always tick that one off the calendar every year and make sure you get to it, because catching up with all the guys who you played a lot of footy with is always important, and just a good day, really, just to have a few beers together and reminisce on what was and what wasn't. I'm still keeping contact with Aaron Sandilands, Matty Pavlich, Lee Spur, Michael Johnson. Yeah, there's a huge range of boys that we still talk to and keep in touch with, albeit life gets busier when you finish footy. Always try and make time to catch up or talk to them.
Did you almost get traded to West Coast in 2016?
Very close, yeah. There's an offer on the table, which we tentatively accepted, and then a few things went wrong and it didn't happen. So, yeah, it was pretty close to happening.
Can I ask
stopped
what
it?
those things went wrong? Yeah.
Sam Mitchell took all the money. Basically, yeah. So, there was an offer on the table. They had to reshuffle a few players on the list and do whatnot, and then Sammy Mitchell became available, and they went that avenue. So, which is fair enough. I was going to take a bit of a pay cut to move across, and that was all good because theoretically I could have been a premiership player in 2018 with Scully.
How do you think those conversations would have gone with your teammates, boys? I'm heading down the road to West Coast.
To be honest, AFL has become a bit of a business, and we're just pawns within that business. So we need to make as much as we can, and albeit I'm pretty proud to say that I've been a one club player at Freo. I still need to look after my family and the best interests of my family, and they would have understood that. If they didn't understand that, then they're not really my friends, then are they?
Is that the period of time where they culled a lot of players at Freo? That
It was, yeah,
De
and that's
Boer,
what I mean.
Mazungu,
Yeah, there was a lot of heart and soul players that were shown the door and took up contracts elsewhere. Matty De Boer still playing at GWS and playing really well. I think he's in the leadership. He might even be vice captain or something and playing really well. Tendai went there as well. Alex Silvani went to Gold Coast. I think he went to Alex Silvani went somewhere. Carlton went to.
Yeah.
Mick Barlow went to Gold Coast. So a lot of players went elsewhere and continued their career, and I was nearly one of them as well.
Were you done when it was all said and done? Were you finished as a player when you eventually hung up the boots at AFL level?
Yeah. More so mentally, I wanted to keep going. Physically, I couldn't. Hamstring injuries, ankle injuries were my two biggest kryptonites, and hammies started to give out every time I got over 80%. So it's good now. I play down at Pinjarra, and I don't have to get over 75% to get a kick.
You got a good team down at Pinjarra now. You got a few names, a few ex-AFL players down there.
Yeah, we do. Brocky O'Brien, the Burnell boys. I think Harley's going back to Waffle this year though. So there's a few. I think there's about 6. There was last year 6 ex-AFL players, a couple of ex-Waffle players. So had a pretty good team.
You played with who I put down as one of the greatest to ever play the game, given his versatility, with Matty Pavlich and Aaron Sandilands, another great player. But Pavlich specifically, what was his leadership like? What sort of player was he like to play under as a captain? Because he was a captain for a long time at Freo.
Yeah, and he's a real get on board and follow me, not do what I say. You jump on, I'll carry you through this. He was very much, he's someone you'd follow into battle no matter what. And which is why he, along with Ross, got the best out of his teammates, because he was always the first one, not just on the field either. He was always the first one in the ice bars. He was always the first one into the gym. He was always the first one. He didn't have the best skin folds going around, and he was always the first one trying to do better with his skin folds and diet and that. So all round leadership was just second to none. And when he left the club, that left a fair bit of a hole.
What about then the leadership to then Nat Fyfe and how that sort of, what's the difference there playing under those two guys?
I think I can't really speak about Fifey now because he was growing into that role when I finished up at the club. David Mundy was always one that was really good as well. He very direct with what he said. It was sharp and blunt, but to the point, and he was always right. There's no point in arguing with him because he's a pretty intelligent bloke, and he was always right. And he's pretty softly spoken, but when he's on the footy field, when you've stuffed up because he'll let you know about it. Which is what I really like, that direct feedback. No point in beating around the bush. If I've stuffed up, tell me and I'll fix it.
You're training horses now, Bellas. We mentioned that off the top, and I've had a few chats with you and found some specific points pretty interesting. How did you learn to train horses? I mean, it's not like something that everyone's just out here doing, is training horses. How have you stepped into that after footy?
Yeah, so my dad's a full-time trainer. That's what he does for a living. I grew up riding track work when I was a kid. Before school, I'd get up and ride a few. So I've always been around horses. And then 2018, I think I took out my trainer's license, bought a horse called Mankind, and got the bug again. So I was always planning on training a couple when I retired from footy, but it's exploded into a full-time business. So I'm loving every minute. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot of difference between us and them. You know, you train them hard, you get them as fit as you can during a pre-season. Give them a trial, which is their pre-season games, and then they're ready for the real deal, round one. And I've got a pretty good first-up record for round one because I've trained them pretty hard, but also recover them hard so they're fresh going into their races.
So, I mean, that was the interesting part I found was I asked, like, how do you know? You can't exactly get any well, you can't get verbal feedback from a horse. You know, you're training a person and, how you feeling? Yeah, I'm tired. You have a drink. Like, how do you know what to do with a horse? And you said something around those lines was you use a lot of the stuff that you're using as a player or learnt as a player to train and sand running and recovery and ice bins on horses.
Yeah, so probably 80% of it is done for us in the work that we do with them. You know, where's it when you get the heart rate up and down? There's a technical term for it, and I use a lot of that. Build their heart rate up, bring it back down, build their heart rate up. So basically, the way they used to train us, you know, flog the guts out of us. I do that. I don't flog the guts because they're a bit. They look like big, strong animals, but they're not. They can break down pretty easy. So you got to manage them pretty well. And but yeah, a good feel for a horse too. You can feel when a horse is flying, and you know, there's no point in starting them until you get that feel for them, and they generally perform when you have that feel.
And it's like a playing list, right? Like some of them are big softies, and you can't you grind them to their absolutely dead. You know, like a big, I don't know who that is at Freo, but some just love the work.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. You know, I rate them between a Michael Barlow and a Chris Mayne. Michael Barlow, just flog the guts out of him. Work him as hard as you can, and he'll get better. Where Chris Mayne, just got to give him a cuddle every now and then, pat him on the bum, say, you're all right, champ, and then he'll perform. So you have the ones that you can flog and the ones you got to give a cuddle, and you got to work it out quick, otherwise you'll stuff it up.
That's very good. Anything from you, Dan, Charlie?
I think we'll let Charlie have his one question and then we'll get to social media.
Sounds good. What do you got for him, Charlie? Big moment here, mate.
Charlie, lifelong Fremantle fan. You've been thinking about this for years. You get to ask Hayden Ballantyne one question. What's it going to be?
All right. Your final game. Can you hear me? No?
Yeah, this is your moment, mate.
Oh, no. Your final game, getting carried out by Aaron Sandilands. What was that feeling like? I was at that game. I was right up there. How did that? What were your reflections on that?
Well, we never planned any of this, and we've done our lap with the kids and walked around and waved to everyone. And little backstory to this: my eldest daughter wasn't there because the morning of that day, she had a pony club event, and her horse nearly bit her finger off. So she was in hospital having surgery on her finger while I'm playing my last game. So a little fun fact for you there. But we've played our game. We got beat by Essendon by a couple of goals, and the crowd were just unbelievable and giving us a send-off. And then we're about to walk off together, get carried off, and he goes, "Get on my back." I said, "I'm not getting on your back." And he gave me the look. Aaron gives you this look when he doesn't ask twice very often. He gave me the look, said, "Get on my back." So I was like, no worries, and got on his back and carried me off. And it's actually pretty cool. The photos, there's a photo from behind where it's me and him waving and all the crowd and the players lining up. It's actually a pretty cool moment and something we're pretty privileged to do together, being good mates.
Who do you think was lining up to carry Aaron off? Surely no one's lining up to carry him off.
No, there's a couple of big boys. We actually did it. We had couple of shandies that night and got a bit pissed, and we reenacted it at his place, and he got on my shoulders, and I couldn't walk for that 3 days later. My back was that sore. 125 kilos, and I'm walking around like I was pretty tough, but yeah, I was struggling the next day.
Oh, if you could get me some photos of that, that'd be very much appreciated. Hey, but while you're telling that story about your daughter getting her fingers munched off, do you mind telling that the snake the snake story? Can you
Yeah,
tell that?
yeah. So we have pretty good run-ins with the wildlife around Perth. So
This is incredible. Listen up, everybody.
we lived on a property in Serpentine, and I was just doing a bit of welding in the shed, and I had one of my mates. He's got this old vintage Kingswood, and my middle girl now, she was 2 at the time, was playing in it. Loved playing in it. Hooting the horn, scaring the shit out of me, and she was in there one day and went all quiet, and I've gone in. I said, "You okay?" And she held her finger up with thumbs like that and goes, "Sore." And as she said sore, this big, huge dugite slithers out of the car. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she's been bitten by a snake. And I've got her out of the car. I've looked over her hand, and you can see these 2 little puncture marks on her hand. And I've just got into action. I've got her in the car, and I was doing about 180 all the way to the hospital. I rang the hospital. I was going through red lights, hooting my horn like I was an ambulance. And I've rang the hospital. I said, I'm coming in hot. My daughter's been bit by a snake. And the person on the other end of the line saying, "You sure it was a dugite?" I said, "Mate, I know what a dugite is." And then got there and wrapped it up, and it's swollen up like 3 times the size of normal. And luckily it was trapped within the muscle. Somehow the venom gets trapped within the muscle and breaks down in there, and didn't get too much into her bloodstream. So she was one very lucky little girl. She's only 2 at the time, and it was about 1 o'clock. I remember, I'll never forget, it was about 1 o'clock, which is normally when she goes down for a bit of a nap. So she's like going to sleep in the back of the car, and I'm screaming at her and like smacking her leg to make sure she stays awake, because I didn't know if she went to sleep she was going to wake up again. So yeah, it was a bit of a scary moment, but one we got through, and now she brags that she's bitten by a snake.
Of course she does, mate. When you told me that the first time, it made me like actually sick. Does that make you feel sick, Dan, as a father?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you said like hand up and she was saying sore. I was like, that hit
Well,
me. I was just like, oh boy.
The funny thing is, we were at the there's like a Peel petting zoo down in Pinjarra, and we were there about 2 weeks before holding a snake, and she's patting this snake. So I reckon she's gone down to say, "Oh, there's a nice pretty snake," gone down to grab it, and let's just give her one.
Oh, God. Everyone listening, don't take your kids to the petting zoo with the snakes. Otherwise, you get a snake bite in the Kingswood. It's funny now because she survived, but fuck me. All right, Ballas, we're almost done, mate. Now you got to get to the kids. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I know you've been waiting for this. This is social media, mate. This is where, I don't even need to explain it to you. I know you know what it is. It's where the people get to ask you the questions. Been running for a long time. One of the podcasts, I dare say one of the best segments going around in podcasting land. Are you ready, mate?
I'm ready. Yep.
All right, let's go, Dan. Let's go off the top. Team Money 97.
All right, Hayden Ballantyne came to do a talk at my school. I think he was in his 4th or 5th year at the club. One of the year sixes ran up and dacked him in front of the school. That weekend, he kicked 5 goals against North. A note on this is that you've never kicked 5 goals against North, actually, but you've kicked 4 against North in 2011. Do you remember getting dacked in front of in front of a school?
No, that's something you probably remember. I don't really remember that happening, but if it did and I kicked 4, maybe I should do it a bit more often.
Oh, you beauty. Liv_Flora. First one from Liv.
Okay. What do you love most about working with horses?
How similar it is to footy players, building them up, putting all that work in as like I said before, like a pre-season, and then seeing the results of them winning and performing how we'd hope they would. So, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing your horse come around the turn of the 400 and it looms up and wins. There's no, even on or off the footy field, there's no better feeling. It's just the buzz you get from it is just, phenomenal.
So better than playing, better than footy, you think?
More intense, yeah. Like, you kick a goal and it's, you get a buzz, and this buzz is just, it's for the, I don't know, it's hard to explain until you've done it. It's hard to explain, but I suppose most other horse owners, if you know, it's just it's a different feeling.
Is it because there's a bit of pressure, Bella? Like, I mean, you've got some co-owners. It's not like you own every horse that you train. You train other people's horses. Is it that as well? You're almost like a coach, and
I think
you're
it's
providing
more,
the joy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's more like this. It must be like the feeling a coach has when the team goes out and does the task how he wants, and they win because it's out of my control. Once I leg that jockey up, it's out of my control. I've done everything I can do. I've prepared it as best I can. Now, hopefully, the game plan works and we're fit enough to get the job done. And when it all comes together, it's like, how good am I for putting that horse together or that team together to win the race?
Seeing as we've skipped over a couple of Scotia questions because we sort of already asked them, and talking about Buzz kicking a goal, I got to ask, 2011 goal of the year. Do you recall that goal being special? Was that like, oh boy, that was a good one, or like because you kicked a lot of goals?
I've probably kicked better goals and didn't get goal of the year, which I was a bit more disappointed about. There's one, and I've kicked a few on the run at Selby that I think were more impressive, but I got a big home screen theatre system. The prize was pretty good, so I'm not going to complain about it. It was good.
I know you're paying Bellas if that makes you feel any better, mate. I've kicked some good running goals now at Subi as well. No goal of the years for me. Kalen, 86.
You need to learn how to celebrate a bit better, mate. That's what it is.
Oh, mate, I think I kicked 22 goals over 14 years, so I don't get many opportunities. I thought I did my best. I mean, at least I celebrate when I kick a goal and not when I miss them.
Well, there was a goal. Yeah, good on you, smart ass. There was a goal I kicked, and I celebrated that hard. My pec started cramping, and I had to go off and get the physios to stretch my. Greg Mullings had to stretch my pecs out because I was cramping that bad in my pecs. That's how I was tensed up so hard.
Oh, and you've torn your pec as well. Was that before or after your pec? Maybe we just found the cause of your pec injury.
Nah, that was the following year. The following year, I tore my pec off the bone.
Well, there you go. Maybe you should have wrapped it up. All right, I've got a couple more socials to get through. How about Saxon _Soundnesses?
What are your favourite current and also all-time pests in AFL and other sports? What about some other ones and other teams that you aspire to be like?
Out quick. Currently, Toby Green. Toby Green would be the. I love watching him play. You know, he's got a bit of character, a bit of personality, and he plays the game on his terms. I love watching him play, and you know he gets labelled as a bit of a pest as well. But he can back it up. He kicks goals. He wins matches up his own boot. So I love watching him play. I suppose Stevie Baker. He was someone that you love to hate because he was such a good defender, and he always used to play on me and bash the shit out of me. But again, wasn't the most skillful, wasn't the fittest, wasn't the fastest, but he just got the job done, and didn't matter what it took. He wasn't out there to make friends either, but it didn't matter what it took. He got it done week in, week out. Do
you reckon those sorts of players are going out of the game more so than coming in? Like, is it? Yeah.
100%. It's too nice footy now. You know, there's no character, not enough characters to make it really entertaining. You know, it's very, very clean and crisp, and you get a high mark every now and then, but there's no big contest because everyone's scared of accidentally bumping someone and getting 4 weeks for it.
Yeah, heard it first. Last one, Mark Blakely.
All right, being a huge Eagles fan growing up, who was your favourite player?
I had quite a few. The Moreira brothers, they Peter Moreira, watching him glide around the Subiaco was always, privileged to watch. Phil Moreira, obviously a fellow small forward. He was always a great player. Cox, Kerr, Judd, Cousins, what a lethal combination they all were. And watching them run around and tear teams apart. Juddy would win games off his own boot as well. So they were probably Dean Kemp as well. He was someone, I think he was underrated a little bit. You see some of the things he used to do. He was probably didn't get the accolades he probably deserved.
All right, Bellas, you've done well, mate. Appreciate you taking some time away from the busy schedule with the horses, but more importantly with the daughters. If they're not already in bed, we'll let you get back and chuck them in there, mate. But lovely to chat to you. Had a great career. Always loved used to coming up against you, and would have been nice to have played with you, but we didn't get the opportunity.
No worries. Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on.
We're done. BackChat's done. Round 1 next week. Enjoy that. You know where to find us on socials. Find us on the internet somewhere. Subscribe to YouTube. Sign up to Patreon. Hello@BackChat. podcast.com.au is our email address. What am I missing, Dan? Anything?
Reddit. Always get on Reddit, r/BackChat podcast. Always a good time down there.
We'll see you next week.